You have to master always three things, right? You have to master your mindset, which so far I've been working on with you. Your mindset is how do you see objections differently? You have to master your process. In this case, I've given you a new process, which is the agree, lead, resolution framework. And then you have to also master your language. You gotta be sales lingual. This is the 4-step framework that we've trained easily $500,000 earners on, and they will swear by it. They will say this is like the secret to everything, and it's just about how to sell more with less stress. Here we go. So here's the big idea. Is that number one is that objections aren't between you and the buyer. Well, who are they between, right? Well, they're between the buyer and themselves. Thank you for asking. So objections are not between you and the buyer. Objections are between the buyer and themselves, right? They're between, well, really, they're between their amygdala and their prefrontal cortex. That's kind of cool to think about, right? So if their amygdala is saying, I'm afraid to do this, I think this is a bad idea, I'm not really sure, I'm gonna look stupid, that's their amygdala, right? They're freezing, they're fawning, they're fighting, they're fleeing, right? That's what they're doing. But their creative part of their brain, the brain that's focusing on their destiny and their dreams, that's their prefrontal cortex. And they're saying, I really like this and I really want this and I think it's okay, I think it's a good idea, this is what I wanna move forward, but I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that, right? So they've got this kind of their own little fight going on between their prefrontal cortex and their amygdala. And then all of a sudden, what happens? So if they're in their amygdala, so put in the chat box, let's have some interaction, Jason. Okay, so if they're in their amygdala and they're coming across argumentative and they're fighting, and then all of a sudden we stay in our amygdala, what do you think happens? You think that's a good thing or a bad thing? If they're in a place of fear and we're in a place of fear, does that do anything? Does that move it in a positive direction? That's yeah, exactly. Lana said very bad. Lindsay says bad. Matt says bad with an exclamation point, right? So that's not good. This is not a good thing, right? So in order, we all heard this concept, we got to lead by example, right? So think of like the greatest leaders of all times, they lead from the front. In my sales management program, I always tell them, lead from the front lines, right? So, talk to the customers, be out there, push yourself to be in the front, right? So the best leaders, we lead from the front. So just the same, that means you as a sales warrior, you also lead from the front, which means you have to start pushing yourself to be in your prefrontal cortex and not your amygdala, because otherwise that sale is not going to go anywhere. All right, so here's the deal. Your role is to lead, protect, and serve them through it. And I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay. So your old way of handling objections was this. You argued, which got nowhere. The new way is you're going to agree with them. Whoa, what, Jason? Yeah. You're going to agree. But Jason, they said that it's so stupid that we charge $80,000 for this oversized home site. Yeah, you're going to agree with them. Man, but they said it's just like no one's going to buy next to a drainage ditch. It's like smells. Yeah, you're going to agree with them. But who in the world is going to pay this kind of price for a power line? Yeah, you're going to agree with them. But Jason, all they ever do is just keep bashing the road noise down the road. They can hear the road noise. Yeah, you're going to agree with them. Whoa, I don't, okay, tell me more. The old way is you're going to push harder, right? You're going to try to push harder and just push and put all that pressure on them. The new way is you're going to lead with truth. The old way is you're going to create friction. The new way is you're going to create resolution. All right, here we go. This is the 4-step framework that we've trained easily $500,000 earners on, and they will swear by it. They will say this is like the secret to everything, and it's just about how to sell more with less stress. Here we go. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to agree with them emotionally. And so you're going to validate their feelings. That's the only way to get them from their amygdala to their prefrontal cortex. Okay, so it's the only way. It's the only way it works. So we got to get them from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, and the only way to do that is to agree. Okay. Second thing is that we're going to agree with them intellectually, and so we're going to normalize their concern. And then the third thing we're going to do is we're going to lead them by reframing them with insight and truth. And then the fourth thing that we're going to do is we're going to achieve some sort of resolution, right? Resolution is where we get that freedom for them, and we got to get them away from friction into that resolution. So we're going to ask a trust-based question to move forward towards freedom. All right. So I'm going to give you an example. So take a screenshot of this, or take a picture of this, something like that, so you can see the roadmap. I'm sure we have some kind of handout for you too that has it. Okay. So here's an example. So I'm sure this is very relevant, right? So customer comes in, they're like, I just kind of feel like prices are too high. Okay, so remember the old way is we would argue with them and we would immediately get defensive, or we would agree. Yeah, I agree. Prices are crazy high. And it's like, yeah, it's crazy how expensive things are. Like we would agree with, we would we would fawn, but not in the way I'm trying to get you to do it, right? So here's what I want you to do. So agree number one is you would just agree. You would say, look, I agree prices are higher than they've been in the past. Okay, so why am I doing that? Because if I try to argue with them, I'm immediately losing trust, and you don't want to do that. Because it's like, do you agree with this comment? Like right now in the chat box, do you guys agree that prices are higher than they've been in the past? Do you guys agree with that? Cool. Okay, so if you can stay in your truth, please write this down. If you can stay in your truth, you are much more trustworthy. Okay, hey, let me say this. Do you guys? I'm not really as good at this as my wife is. I think females, for some reason, have a better sixth sense ability to like understand people if they're lying or not. But can you guys tell when someone's like kind of out of their congruence, right? Can you guys kind of tell someone that? Like, can you guys kind of tell when you're talking to someone, you're like, I don't know. I think they're kind of like lying right now. I think they're not. Yeah, Katie can do it. Yeah. Again, my wife's incredible. It's amazing how many times like we're trying to hire someone and I'm like, I really like that person. And anyway, she'll I'm telling you, they're going to screw you over, Jason. Or like a bad deal. I'll sign a deal with a builder that I'm like, it's a great deal, you know? And they're like, it's a bad deal. They're going to totally screw you over. And I go against her so many times, and every single time she's right. It's crazy how much she can like tell the person's legit or not, and they're congruent. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. Anyway, so the point is that you have to, there's no point of lying, right? Lying is the worst thing you can possibly do. And so only speak truth to people. The truth will set us all free. That is the most important thing you can do to be the most persuasive salesperson, is just be honest. And so whenever you see an objection, the first thing you should ask yourself is like, do you agree? Like, do you agree that there's road noise? I agree. Do you agree that it smells next to the drainage ditch? Yeah, I agree. Do you agree that it's not exactly super sightly and it doesn't really look that nice to have this big power line next to me? Yeah, I agree with that. Do you agree that the homes are like super close together? Yeah, I agree with that. Do you agree that the backyards are smaller than they are if we live further out? Yeah, I agree with that. It's like, then why are we yelling at them? Why are we arguing with them, right? So it's so nuts. Again, I know it sounds crazy because I used to be I'm laughing at myself right now because I used to be one of the arguers that I was like trying to immediately attack them and reframe them and make them feel stupid, make them feel bad about themselves that they were like seeing something crazy. It's like, no, you can't hear the road noise. No. It's like, it doesn't really work, right? So anyway, so first step is you agree. I agree prices are higher than they've been in the past. That's the emotional agree. So agree number two. So what you're talking about is inflation, is that right? Okay, so notice what I'm doing here, right? So the first agree is I want to agree with them emotionally because I want to get into their heart and I want to be the bridge that gets them away from their amygdala to their prefrontal cortex, okay? It's kind of a cool thing. The agree number two is I want to shift them from emotional agreement to intellectual agreement, okay? That's what I'm trying to do here. And so I want to work on trying to reframe it if I possibly can. So in this case, I'm going to reframe it and I'm going to start moving them to intellectually understand it. So I'm going to say, so what you're talking about is inflation, is that right? And of course the customers will be like, yeah, inflation's horrible. So what am I doing? I'm labeling the overall concept. Okay, so this takes some time to kind of figure out, but it's real easy once you get the framework. And honestly, ChatGPT can probably help you the most by doing this. And we have a lot of scripts written for you already that I can share with you on Friday. So then we have lead. So the lead is, I'm sure you don't mind appreciation like you do inflation, correct? Okay, so notice what I'm doing, right? So at first I'm agreeing with them emotionally, then I'm agreeing with them intellectually because I want to label it, and then I want to lead them to a reframe, okay? So a reframe is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Like I told you on day one, I believe it was, is that we can ask for unlimited miracles in our life if we just ask for ourselves to see things differently. If we could just change our perspective on something, we can have all the miracles in the world. I mean, like for example, you know, like when I'm telling myself when I'm going through all this torture, again, I did this endurance hike, 29,000 feet of elevation, 31 miles, and you had to do it in 36 hours or less, no breaks. It was very difficult. Put a treadmill on a 19% incline and do it for 35 hours. That's what I did. And I share that with you because like I have two options. I could either say, this is horrible, my legs hurt, my body hurts, or I could say, this is fun. and I'm enjoying myself, and the pain is worth it. And there's nothing great comes without the suffering. And those of you who are mothers know that. That's why they call it labor pain. Miraculous things come from the labor pain. I've never experienced that before, but I know you have, right? And so I'm going to reframe it for myself. That reframe will set you free, and it definitely sets your customers free. So again, the lead is, I'm sure you don't mind appreciation like you do inflation, correct? And so I'm relabeling that inflation is actually appreciation. Let me show you what I mean. So the resolution is the fourth step, and that's, hey, let's see if buying today makes sense so that you can benefit from appreciation and stop being punished by inflation. Sound fair? Okay. So this is the basic framework. Now let me share with you how I would kind of ham it up in the real world, because I like to ham things up. So this is what I would say. Okay, so a customer comes in and they say, man, it's just, I don't know, it's just these prices are it's just crazy how high they're getting. It's like, they're so high. Yeah. It is crazy. Yeah, the prices are way higher than they were like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. And even when I bought a house a long time ago, it's the same house back 20 years ago was $100,000. Now it's $300,000. It's crazy. So I'm curious, what you're talking about though is inflation, right? Like, is that, like, it's really what we're talking about is inflation. Yeah. Inflation's, you're right. Inflation. Inflation's everything. Yeah. It's not just houses, it's eggs. Eggs are more expensive. Vacations are more expensive. Airfare is more expensive. Clothes are more expensive. Everything's kind of more, everything's being inflated right now. Is that right? Yeah. Well, so here's the deal. I'm curious if do you have a problem with appreciation like you do inflation? What do you mean, Jason? Well, if you were to have bought this house 4 years ago, you would have been benefiting from appreciation. But since you decided to not buy, you've been punished by inflation. And the way that homes work is it's actually like one big kind of choo-choo train with like a track that never ends. And meaning that the homes are always either appreciating or they're inflating. It just depends on, are you on the train benefiting from appreciation, or are you watching the train go by and being punished by inflation? So why don't we do this today, right? Why don't we do this? Why don't we see if we have a home today that solves your problems and improves your life and makes it worth it for you to buy today, so that you can start benefiting from appreciation and stop being punished by inflation. Let's go. You guys like that? That's Jason's version of kind of adding some conversation to it and hamming it up, right? But that's how I would say in the real world. And that script works really, really well. To me, again, you have to master always three things, right? You have to master your mindset, which so far I've been working on with you. Your mindset is, how do you see objections differently? You have to master your process. In this case, I've given you a new process, which is the agree, lead, resolution framework. And then you have to also master your language. So you have to get the language right and be what I call, you got to be sales lingual. You got to be buyer lingual, right? You got to be able to get it right. And that's what you've learned as well. Okay.